Welcome to NarrativeNook audio tales where enchanted stories come to life. If you enjoy our stories, please subscribe, like and share to support our channel. Enjoy listening.
Jessie picked a spot and sat down. Everyone in the class looked at her upon her arrival. Some recognized who she was, and they broke out into hushed discussion. Hey, isn't she a stunt woman? Why is she here? Yeah. Is it even necessary for her to take this class? Not like she's gonna be on camera. She's probably switching lanes. Got tired of the stunt woman job, perhaps. She should stay in her lane, though. Not everyone is talented enough to be an actress, one arrogant woman sneered. The lecture hall was quiet, and Jessie heard everything despite their whispering. She took her notebook out and ignored the gossip. Hey. What's your name? A girl asked. Jessie. Jessie Silverstein. Who recommended you? The girl asked curiously. A famous professor would be giving the lessons, and only the elites of the performing arts school could attend. An outsider would need a recommendation. My friend, Jessie answered. Wow. They must be a big shot, the girl said enviously. She loved how beautiful Jessie looked. Beauties were a dime a dozen in the industry, but anyone who wanted to be famous had to have the looks. A lady professor came in and looked at everyone. Then, she started teaching. Her lecture was filled with facts and practical tips. Everyone fortunate to be in the class learned a lot from her. Jessie had also taken a lot of notes. Like a sponge, she kept absorbing the knowledge given by the professor. The professor had some tea and announced, "All right, I need someone to perform on stage." At that, the arrogant lady from earlier went up to the stage. She requested, "Professor, I'd like to pick a partner." Very well. The girl looked around and stared at Jessie. I'll go with her. Jessie blinked. She was still in a daze, and the girl beside her said, "That's Xandra Limerick, Madonna of the Performance Arts course." Jessie had no idea about the industry's gossip as she had been busy with her work. She stood up from her seat and approached Xandra. What would you want me to do? What kind of role can you play? She had no answer for that. Oh, sorry. Forgot you're a stunt woman. You were never professionally trained. Sorry for asking you to help me out. I wanted to play some roles in the textbook, but I guess you can't do it, huh? Mockery filled Xandra's eyes as she said that. The class burst into laughter. They loved seeing Jessie get humiliated. She was in very fashionable attire, and the ladies thought she was a threat to them. Oh, you must be Miss Silverstein. The one Julian recommended, the professor said. Well, if the professor is asking me, I have no reason to hide it. She nodded. Yes, Professor Larson. He told me about you. Come to my office this afternoon. I have a few books I'd like you to have. The stern expression on the professor's face was replaced by a warm smile. Jessie smiled and nodded. Of course, Professor. Xandra was shocked. Things just got awkward and embarrassing for her. All she wanted was to mock Jessie, but never did she expect Julian to be the one who recommended her. I need more time to prepare, Professor, she said sheepishly and returned to her place. Jessie went back to her spot as well, but everyone was now looking at her in a new light. Julian's the one who recommended her? Who is she? Why does Julian care so much for her? She's just a no-name stunt woman. The girl beside Jessie turned around, her eyes filled with envy. So, your friend is Julian? Are you guys dating? No. We're just friends. Jessie smiled. She raised her head and was met with Xandra's icy glare. She blamed Jessie for the embarrassment she suffered earlier. Jessie shot her a look as well. She never did anything to her, and she wouldn't let Xandra bully her either. After class was over, the professor asked Jessie to come with her. Xandra approached them happily. Professor Larson, I have a few questions I'd like to ask. Can I come as well? Of course. The professor nodded. Xandra shot Jessie a smug look. She felt superior just because she was a part of the performance arts course, while Jessie was just a no-name stunt woman. The professor gave Jessie 3 books and told her she could come to her anytime. She even gave Jessie her number. Jessie was grateful for the professor's help and even more thankful for Julian's, as she wouldn't have had this opportunity to learn the arts of performing if not for him. When she emerged from the office, the girl who had talked to her earlier came and said hello. She kept asking her questions, especially things related to Julian. Jessie had already been in the industry for years and knew she had to deny everything, so she told the girl she wasn't familiar with Julian. Seeing that she couldn't get anything out of Jessie, the girl left. However, little did Jessie know that any news about Julian would be twisted and written into articles that were nothing but lies. It was especially so when a no-name stunt woman like her received a favor from Julian. The news outlets would make use of their wildest imagination to brew some juicy gossip for their readers. Before Jessie could even leave the school, Lexi called her. Hey, Lexi. Jessie, is it true? Are you dating Julian? Who said that? Every news outlet. They said he recommended you to join the performance class at Averna's University's School of Performance Arts. Jessie's head buzzed. How did they find out so fast? She explained, no. Let me check the news. She sat down under a tree and scrolled through all the news related to Julian. However, she noticed the news wasn't about Julian, it was about her. An unnamed stunt woman seduced Julian, and her endeavor was successful. Julian recommended her to a class at the School of Performance Arts. Fans say an unnamed stunt woman spent a whole day with Julian in his hotel. Claims were made that her sexual prowess is incredible. Jessie's face turned red, and her cheeks burned. Damn, they sure are good at making up lies. This is fake news. We did nothing at the hotel. They even used photos of me at work. It was clear that they were talking about me. The comment section was filled with nothing but insults at that point. She was getting a headache as she read through all that. Right at this moment, someone approached her and sneered, "Did you see the news, Jessie? No wonder you got the chance to attend this class." Xandra and her sycophants mocked Jessie. Hey, someone's great in bed. Not like us. Oh, God. Julian, you have no taste at all. It's a misunderstanding. These are all fabricated. We're innocent, Jessie explained. Of course, we know that. Julian wouldn't fall for an ugly woman like you. I bet you dragged him in just to make a name for yourself. Now, tell me who's the guy you slept with. Bet he's a fat, old man. Xandra crossed her arms as she mocked. They're being unreasonable. Jessie then took her bag. I'm not talking to you. Hey, that's a limited edition bag. Xandra and her sycophants were brimming with jealousy. So, not only is her backer powerful, but they're rich too. Jessie didn't ask Queenie to pick her up. Instead, she wanted to get a ride home. Before that, she wanted to look around the place as the scenery of Averna University was exceptionally beautiful. Halfway through her stroll, her phone rang. She wondered who it was, but when she saw the caller's name, she froze. Julian. She quickly picked it up. Hello, Mr. Gilmore. Ignore the news. An attractive voice came from the other end of the line. No, I'm fine. But this is going to affect your reputation, though. She was worried about him. She was fine with what the internet thought about her, but she didn't want Julian's reputation to be affected. Your reputation is equally important, he answered calmly. Jessie blinked. She was reminded of the raunchier articles that were posted, and her cheeks burned. I just hope you aren't affected. Where are you? Just got out of school. I want to take a stroll around. I'm nearby. I'll pick you up and we can talk about the script, Julian said. Now? Is it okay? Jessie asked. Yeah. Give me your location and wait for me. Sure. She sent him her location. While she was waiting, she scrolled through social media and covered her mouth in shock as she came across something. The news of her and Julian was second on trending, and they were fast catching up to the top spot. That was only a few minutes ago. And the search term was Jessie the Stuntwoman. The comments amounted to over 90,000, and all of them were insulting her. Jessie stopped reading after the first dozen lines. She wasn't surprised this would happen, given how famous Julian was. 10 minutes later, Jessie was still engrossed in her phone when a black SUV appeared before her. Someone opened the door, and the man within called out to her. Get in, Jessie. She was delighted, but she looked around before she surreptitiously got into the car and closed the door. Julian was amused seeing her so nervous. What are you scared about? The news outlets. The reporters. Your fans. She was terrified as she had been called all kinds of names on the internet, after all. He knew how she felt and consoled her. Don't worry. My assistants are dealing with the matter. Can they keep it down? She blinked. He kept quiet for a moment before he said, Jessie, there's a banquet tonight and I'd like you to come with me. She froze for a few moments. The scandal's already making the rounds. If I go with him, they're going to think we're dating. I've never attended any banquets before. She didn't want to embarrass herself, not to mention she had no work under her belt. I don't have the qualifications to join. Julian respected her choice and nodded. Sure, next time, then. Now, let's go to my brother's company. Why? To sign you up. He was planning on letting her debut soon. Jessie took a deep breath. She nodded. Sure. Stardom was the leader of the industry. It monopolized about 70% of the industry's resources in the nation, and it had a few thousand A-listers working for it. Profits were staggering every year. All female celebrities saw working for Stardom as a form of pride, but Stardom's test was brutal. Jessie stood before the building, staring up at the dazzling window. The whole building was shining, just like its achievements. Julian smiled. Feeling the heat? Jessie nodded. She was really nervous. Coming here meant her life would take a new turn. The path ahead would be laden with challenges. He took her to the 38th floor and entered an office before he handed her over to one of the managers around. Brief her about the contract. Of course, Master Julian. The manager smiled. She called him Master. Julian then turned to Jessie and said, just go through the process. You'll be getting everything an A-lister gets. Huh? Her eyes went wide with shock. I get what an A-lister gets too. But I don't even have any work produced yet. The pressure was mounting as she was worried that she might let him down. Come with me, Miss Silverstein, the manager said. Julian left soon after as Jessie followed the manager. She printed out the contract and gently told Jessie where to sign her name. Aside from that, she said nothing more. The signing took about 10 minutes. Jessie took a rough look at the contract and was shocked to see the sign-on bonus being $1.4 million. She felt her heart thumping furiously. How am I supposed to make that kind of money in a year? She wasn't doubting herself, she just didn't feel confident enough. After signing the contract, Julian's assistant served her snacks and coffee. She asked Jessie to wait around. At the same time, Julian was on the top floor. He was sitting on a sofa with his legs crossed, his eyes on his brother. His brother, Louis Gilmore, was about 30 years old and looked like Julian, albeit a lot more mature than he was. "You sure you want to help her out?" Louis asked, his voice deep and calm. "I can make her famous." Julian cocked his eyebrows slightly. He was confident in the matter. "Sure. I won't object to this." Louis closed the document on his desk. Coolly, he said, "But you know the rules. I don't need useless people on my team." Julian narrowed his eyes. "I know. Do you like her?" Louis asked. Julian stretched his arms as he responded, "I don't have to tell you everything, do I?" "Well, I'm your brother." A smile tugged on Louis's lips. Julian languidly picked his teacup up. "And that's the reason you tried to butt into my life since we were kids. Can't I have some privacy?" "Fine. I won't ask." Louis stood up and straightened his collar out. "Time for a meeting." Julian looked at the time and thought, she should be done signing by now. He then went downstairs. Jessie was sitting before the French window, staring at the view outside. She felt a lot calmer now. She spaced out as she was deep in thought and didn't notice Julian was already standing behind her. So, it gave her a shock when she finally noticed his presence. He stared at her in amusement. "She's simply adorable." "Done with the signing?" "Yeah. You'll start working tomorrow. From now on, we're going to create your persona and market you to the public. Be prepared. Everyone's going to see your photos, and you're gonna make the news." Jessie nodded. "Since I have decided to debut, I've been prepared for this. Don't worry. No matter what happens, I'll stand by you." Julian sat before her. He looked at her like she was not a sculpted gemstone. All she needed was some work, and she would shine bright. Suddenly, Jessie had the urge to relieve herself and stood up. "I need to use the bathroom." Julian smiled. "Feeling the heat?" Jessie came to the restroom. There was barely anyone in the cubicles, so she picked the innermost one. Not long after she went inside, a few ladies came in as they chatted along. The biggest news of the day was Julian's scandal with a no-name stuntwoman. They hadn't received any orders to keep the news down, so they thought Julian must be letting the news make the rounds. Who is that stuntwoman? Why does Master Julian care about her so much? She even gets everything an A-lister gets. Are you sure about that? Yeah. I printed the contract myself and even took a look at it. She's getting an A-lister's resources, all right. I wonder how he managed to convince President Gilmore to sign this. We would never have signed on someone with no acting chops otherwise. Yeah. Master Julian must have faced a lot of pressure for this. Of course. President Gilmore is someone who doesn't care about anyone. The company's profit comes first. Jessie hid in the cubicle, and her face turned red as she listened to their conversation. She had conflicting emotions about it. So, he had to endure so much just to sign me on. She emerged from the restroom and looked at Julian, who was sitting before the French window. She swore to herself she would keep going on, no matter how hard the path would be, just for him. The sun shone on him, and it added some charms to his exquisite features, but for some reason, Jessie had sensed an air of solitude about him. She felt a twinge in her heart as she looked at him. She then walked over and sat beside him. Thanks for signing me on. I won't let you down. Don't feel pressured. Just do your best. There was confidence in his eyes. He believed she would do well. Jessie loved acting. Since becoming a stunt woman, being an actress had been her dream. She wanted to play different roles and challenge herself. It was the reason she worked so hard, and now she would work even harder. She would never let Julian down. Let's go. I'll take you home. There's no need for that. I can just get a ride. No. The scandal is making the rounds fast. Some of the more raving fans might hurt you. I need to make sure you get home safe and sound, he said seriously. Meanwhile, Lena heard the news of Nigel's engagement that morning, and it shocked her. If Nigel were to be engaged, she would have no chance to get close to him. She still had the photos Bonnie sent her last time. It wasn't the first time she observed them, but no matter how many times she looked at them, she still thought the woman in the photos looked like Queenie. She really wanted to make these photos public, but she had lost contact with Bonnie for days. Deleting the photos would be a waste, though. She wanted to use them somehow, as this was her only chance to win Nigel over. If these photos managed to ruin Nigel's engagement, she would have had a chance to get close to Nigel. However, Lena wasn't going to expose herself as the mastermind. The Mansons were too powerful. If they realized this was all her doing, they would come after her family. She wasn't so stupid as to put her family and her life on the line. All she wanted was to sabotage Queenie and obstruct her engagement. First things first, she had to get her hands on Penelope's number and send her these photos. Rumors said Penelope was a powerful woman who was a part of the Manson family. Nobody would ever dare to cross her. Jessie came to the restroom. There was barely anyone in the cubicles, so she picked the innermost one. Not long after she went inside, a few ladies came in as they chatted along. The biggest news of the day was Julian's scandal with a no-name stuntwoman. They hadn't received any orders to keep the news down, so they thought Julian must be letting the news make the rounds. Who is that stuntwoman? Why does Master Julian care about her so much? She even gets everything an A-lister gets. Are you sure about that? Yeah. I printed the contract myself and even took a look at it. She's getting an A-lister's resources, all right. I wonder how he managed to convince President Gilmore to sign this. We would never have signed on someone with no acting chops otherwise. Yeah. Master Julian must have faced a lot of pressure for this. Of course. President Gilmore is someone who doesn't care about anyone. The company's profit comes first. Jessie hid in the cubicle, and her face turned red as she listened to their conversation. She had conflicting emotions about it. So, he had to endure so much just to sign me on. She emerged from the restroom and looked at Julian, who was sitting before the French window. She swore to herself she would keep going on, no matter how hard the path would be, just for him. The sun shone on him, and it added some charms to his exquisite features, but for some reason, Jessie had sensed an air of solitude about him. She felt a twinge in her heart as she looked at him. She then walked over and sat beside him. Thanks for signing me on. I won't let you down. Don't feel pressured. Just do your best. There was confidence in his eyes. He believed she would do well. Jessie loved acting. Since becoming a stunt woman, being an actress had been her dream. She wanted to play different roles and challenge herself. It was the reason she worked so hard, and now she would work even harder. She would never let Julian down. Let's go. I'll take you home. There's no need for that. I can just get a ride. No. The scandal is making the rounds fast. Some of the more raving fans might hurt you. I need to make sure you get home safe and sound, he said seriously. Meanwhile, Lena heard the news of Nigel's engagement that morning, and it shocked her. If Nigel were to be engaged, she would have no chance to get close to him. She still had the photos Bonnie sent her last time. It wasn't the first time she observed them, but no matter how many times she looked at them, she still thought the woman in the photos looked like Queenie. She really wanted to make these photos public, but she had lost contact with Bonnie for days. Deleting the photos would be a waste, though. She wanted to use them somehow, as this was her only chance to win Nigel over. If these photos managed to ruin Nigel's engagement, she would have had a chance to get close to Nigel. However, Lena wasn't going to expose herself as the mastermind. The Mansons were too powerful. If they realized this was all her doing, they would come after her family. She wasn't so stupid as to put her family and her life on the line. All she wanted was to sabotage Queenie and obstruct her engagement. First things first, she had to get her hands on Penelope's number and send her these photos. Rumors said Penelope was a powerful woman who was a part of the Manson family. Nobody would ever dare to cross her. My friend's mother met up with Brenda before. I think I can get Brenda's phone number from her. Lena made the call and promised her friend she would give her a spot on her private jet the next time she went on a vacation. Her friend readily agreed to the favor because of that. Lena got a number a while later. She looked at it, feeling smug. I bet Queenie wouldn't expect an interrogation from the Mansons. Let's change that, shall we? Brenda returned home at 6. The moment she got out of her car, her phone kept ringing. She wondered who it was. And 6 messages at the same time? She checked the messages out, and what she saw shocked her to the core. The woman in the photos was Queenie, and the images were explicit. That woman was resting her chin on the arm of a man, and Brenda could see the man's hair in the corner of the photo. He also stuck his tongue out. Just the sight of this made her feel uncomfortable. The following images were even more disgusting, so she swiftly turned her phone off. Her mind was in chaos. Who sent these? Is that Queenie? Did she date someone before? And she even took these photos? No matter how much Brenda liked Queenie, she couldn't accept this. The woman in the images was the definition of lurid. Brenda decided to get to the bottom of this as she wanted to know if the woman was really Queenie. Though, in her mind, she already suspected that it was indeed Queenie who was in the photos and that the photos were taken 2 years ago. If only she had met Bonnie before, she wouldn't have thought so. Brenda didn't notice the overuse of filters in the photos. All she thought was the woman looked really beautiful. She heaved a sigh. Ladies should respect themselves, and they should never walk down the wrong path. If these photos get out, it's going to ruin her reputation. She called Nigel, and as soon as the call connected, she could hear her son happily say, "Hey, Mom. Come back home tonight, Nigel." "Sure. Queenie's with me. I'll bring her along." "Is she right beside you? Does she know I'm calling you?" "What's wrong, Mom? Just answer my question." "No, she's playing golf. She's a bit far away." He noticed Queenie swinging her club, and he gesticulated at her. Queenie beamed at him and swung her club. Brenda continued, "Nigel, come home alone tonight. Don't bring Queenie along. We need to talk." "What happened?" "Just tell me, Mom. Can't talk over a phone call." "Just take her home and come back," she ordered and hung up. Nigel was flummoxed. "Okay, Mom's being stern. Something big must have happened, and Queenie's involved. Does Mom have anything to complain about? I gotta find out." Queenie made a good swing. Happily, she came back to Nigel. She was in white sports attire, and her hair was tied in a ponytail. She looked like a fresh graduate who was full of life. When she approached him, she wrapped her arms around his neck. Nigel held her and spun her around. He then kissed Queenie before putting her down. Since there was a distance between them and the car, she purred, "Can you give me a ride on your back, Nigel?" He would do anything just for her. And he had wanted to give her a piggyback ride even before she had asked for it. Nigel hunkered down, and Queenie quickly leaped onto his back. He easily lifted her. Strolling across the plains under the sunset was a romantic feeling. She wrapped her arms around his neck and leaned on his back, a sweet smile curling her lips. "I'll take you home first. I need to settle something tonight," he said. "We aren't having dinner together? This might take a while. Spend some time with Jessie." "Yeah. I do need to spend more time with Jessie." Queenie thought she needed to stay with Jessie more as they had just reunited not long ago. After Nigel sent her home, he quickly went back to the Manson residence. His mother sounded stern, and he wanted to know what had happened. Brenda had yet to have dinner. Her husband hadn't come back, and neither was her son. When it was about 7:30 p.m., she heard someone parking their car in the yard, and her son came in soon after. "What's wrong, Mom?" Nigel sat beside her. He was surprised to see her so depressed. "Nigel, tell me the truth. Has Queenie dated anyone before? How far have they gone?" Brenda wanted to know more about Queenie's past. The images still haunted her. She was worried Nigel might marry the wrong woman. It would mean disaster for the family. Queenie had left a good first impression, but the photos showed a different side of her, and it made Brenda panic. Nigel nodded at her question. She had dated someone before, but the most they did was hold hands. Other than that, nothing. Brenda looked at her son as she was worried that he might have been duped. This was his marriage they were talking about. "Are you sure they're just friends?" "I am very sure." He was certain that nothing had happened between Leslie and Queenie. "Queenie's a good girl." "What's wrong, Mom?" He was confused by his mother's behavior. "You want to know why I asked all that?" She took her phone out right then and showed him the photos. "Look. Someone sent these to me. And this side of Queenie worries me." Nigel took the phone and narrowed his eyes. The woman in the images did look like Queenie, but he knew it wasn't her. It was Bonnie, the fake Silverstein daughter. "This isn't Queenie, Mom. It's Nina, the girl who pretended to be Queenie's sister." Brenda froze. She wore her spectacles and stared at the girl in the images. "You sure it's not Queenie?" "Very sure. Someone must have sent you these to ruin my relationship with Queenie. They also want you to think badly of her." "But who would do that?" She couldn't think of anyone who would want to harm their relationship. "Mom, this isn't Queenie. Don't play into their hands. I'll find out who's behind this." He was livid. Someone's trying to ruin Queenie's reputation. Bonnie's jailed, so it's not her. Someone else is behind this. Brenda was still doubtful. She had never seen Bonnie before, so she had a hard time believing that a girl who did cosmetic surgery could look exactly like Queenie. "You should look into this. I hope this isn't Queenie. And I'd like to know who's behind this." She wanted the truth. It'd be best if the woman in these images wasn't Queenie. Nigel made a mental note of the number that sent these photos to Brenda before going upstairs. Fury welled within him. Who dares to try and ruin our relationship? How dare they send those images to my mother? They're trying to ruin my relationship, damn it. Once I find out who they are, they'll be paying for it. He turned his computer on and texted one of his friends, "Find out who's the one behind this number." "Did you run into something?" "Just find out the owner of this number." "Can do," his friend texted. He was a powerful hacker who could find anything as long as they were online. Lena had forgotten all about what she had sent Brenda. It was just a simple message, and she didn't care what would happen. If the images managed to ruin the engagement, she thought she would have a chance at Nigel. She was binge-watching some shows online, but then her screen turned black all of a sudden. What happened? She was shocked. Did my computer die? Right then, a message slowly showed up on her screen. Lena Perez, you have gone too far. Her heart skipped a beat. What's going on? Who's controlling my computer? What are they trying to do? He knows. Nigel knows you sent his mother those images. You'd better have an explanation for that, or your family's company will know no peace. Lena paled, her heart palpitating. She was in shock and had no idea what to do. Does Nigel know about it? That's fast. And now he's controlling my computer to warn me? Then, a few photos popped up on the screen. They were photos of her from when she fooled around with other guys. Terrified, she held her head. Who are you? What do you want? Don't touch my photos. Don't look at them. I wonder what'll happen to you if I send these to your male friends. You know how it is with karma. It always comes back to bite you. The hacker was slowly uncovering the dark side of Lena Perez, counting all the sins she had done, and Lena's face turned red. No, don't do that, please. I'll apologize to him. I promise. Lena quickly apologized despite the fact she had no idea if the hacker could hear her. However, to her surprise, the hacker actually heard her. He texted, "You have 5 minutes. Apologize, or I will ruin you." With that, another photo popped up. It was an image of her sleeping with a married man, who was a famous businessman. Does his wife know you slept with her husband? No, please. I'm sorry. Have mercy. Lena was sitting on her bed, almost kneeling. If these photos went out to the public, she would be ruined. Then, explain yourself to Mrs. Manson. I'll be waiting. The screen returned to normal. With shaky hands, Lena held her phone and called Brenda. Hello. Who's this? Brenda asked. I'm sorry, Mrs. Manson. I'm Lena. Lena Perez. I was the one who sent those images. I didn't mean it. The woman in those images isn't Queenie. It's her sister, Bonnie. She was the one who sent those photos to me. She wanted me to slander Queenie. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. Brenda heaved a sigh of relief. Thank goodness it's not Queenie. But I can't believe this lady would do that. This is pure evil. Miss Perez, why did you slander my son's fiancée? She asked angrily. I'm sorry. I just liked Nigel too much, so I wanted to ensure I could have a chance at him. So, I did what I did. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Please forgive me. Lena held her phone tightly, and her voice was broken. Brenda harumphed, next time you do this, I won't let you off that easily. She angrily hung up, heaved a sigh, and deleted all the photos Lena sent her. Lena plopped back onto her bed, looking defeated. And then, her phone rang, but it was an unfamiliar number. Who is this? You slept with my husband? I'm gonna kill you, Lena Perez, a woman hissed. Lena's hand trembled, and she shouted at her computer screen, You lied to me. Who in the world are you? Back at the Manson residence, Brenda finally felt relieved after she got the clarification she needed. She couldn't believe this was something done by someone who wanted to date her son. She went upstairs and knocked on Nigel's door. Right after he opened the door, she apologized, Sorry, Nigel. I shouldn't have doubted Queenie. I've deleted the photos. Queenie's a good woman, Mom. Trust me, Nigel reassured. Yeah. This is my fault. I wouldn't doubt her again. Your father and I will talk to the Silversteins about your marriage tomorrow and decide on the date, she said. He wrapped an arm around his mother's shoulder. We gotta give them some good dowry. Your father and I have done the preparations. Generous preparations. She smiled. She knew how much her son liked Queenie. Nigel didn't get back at Lena anymore. After all, her reputation was ruined, and getting involved with her would only soil his name. If he were to run into her, he would tell her to piss off. Meanwhile, at the Silverstein residence, Jessie had told everyone she was signed on as an actress during dinner, and her family was happy for her. They hoped she could make a name for herself in the industry. When she returned to her room and checked the scandal, she noticed a lot of shorts were promoting the works she used to take part in. They even edited the parts where she was in. And most of the comments praised her. "Whoa, that's my favorite scene." "So, she's the stunt woman?" "I was shaken when I first saw that. I want to fly like her. She's a professional. Works all year long. Nobody can take that. Doing stunts isn't easy. Respect." I could never forget that flying scene. "So, she's the one behind it?" She was beautiful. Jessie finally felt a little at ease. At least the insults had been dramatically reduced, and the praise delighted her. Stardom must have stepped in. They're deleting all bad comments and replacing them with good reviews. She heaved a sigh in silence. "I have to work hard now. Can't let Julian down." In the meantime, Queenie was video calling her boyfriend. He was resting his cheek on the back of his hand, staring at her. No matter how she looked at him, he was perfect. His face gleamed, and his eyes shone like obsidian under the light. For a moment, she wanted to go to his house and throw herself into his arms. She was wearing thin pajamas, and she pulled her collar down in an attempt to tease him. However, she earned herself a hiss from him instead. "Wear your clothes properly." "You don't want to see this?" Queenie puckered her lips and harumphed. "Just don't want anyone else to see this. The internet is a dangerous place. Just come over and show me yourself tomorrow," Nigel said gently. "Ah, he's so sweet." She could never get tired of looking at him. "My dad and mom should arrive at 10 tomorrow morning," he informed. She nodded in acknowledgement. "All right, I'll wake up early and get myself dressed up. It's getting late. Get some sleep." Queenie looked at the time and noticed it was already 10:30 p.m. However, she still wanted to stay up. Let's talk a bit more. Don't stay up too late. Listen to some songs and read a little. Then, go to sleep," Nigel purred. Heeding his words, she ended the video call. It was only then that she realized she was actually getting sleepy, so she played some music to help with her sleep. Queenie and Jessie came down at 8 a.m. Their parents were waiting for them around the dining table, and the girls sat down around them. They made a happy family. Dad, Mom, Nigel, and his parents will be here at 10. "All right, I have already told the chef to make a feast for them." "Yay, you're getting married, Queenie," Jessie cheered happily. Brandon and Maggie were in a hurry to marry her off as well. Nigel was 1 in a million, and they were happy that he would finally get engaged to Queenie. All they wished for was for their daughters to marry good men. They didn't expect their kids to stay around all the time. They just wanted their children to be happy. And marrying someone in the same city would make visits easier. "Oh, I need to prepare some fruits and snacks. Brandon, you should prepare the best wine you have." "Of course. I'm going to the cellar." Queenie took Jessie upstairs after breakfast. Jessie was in a good mood that morning. All the negative comments had turned for the better, and she even got herself some fans. She was watching a video, and there was a photo of her in it. She was wearing the shirt the day prior. The cameraman had skills. She was standing under a tree, holding a book. The photo made her look radiant and gleaming like an innocent young lady. Jessie blushed. "Hey, Julian did this, didn't he? He took my pic in secret. I had no idea he did that." All the comments were praising her looks. They called her a future celebrity, and she felt embarrassed. She thought the photo looked nice, though she also wondered why Julian had taken that photo. A few minutes before 10 o'clock a.m., 3 cars arrived at the Silverstein residence. Brenda and her husband emerged from the car, and their bodyguards came out holding boxes of gifts. Nigel got out of the last car. He was in a crisp suit today, and he even styled his hair nicely. The Silverstein couple welcomed their guests eagerly. They were happy to meet each other. "Oh, you didn't have to do this. This must have cost a lot." It's nothing expensive. Just a little gift." Even though the Mansons had said that everything that they brought over was expensive due to how rare the items were. Queenie and Nigel locked eyes for a moment, and Queenie eventually turned away shyly. Now that their parents had met, the reality of getting married finally dawned on her, and it made her blush. Their parents were talking among themselves while Jessie kept refilling their cups with tea. Queenie, on the other hand, led Nigel upstairs to talk.
Thank you for listening. If you have enjoyed this story, please like and share so others can see it too. Also hit the subscription button and notification bell so you can be notified on our next release. Thank you for your support. God bless you.